All right, so welcome to Algebra 2. Today is April 14th. A few rules, so just be respectful of others. Remember, only use the annotation and chat features when you're asked to use those. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. If we can see your video, you can just raise it like this. If we can't see your video, then in the chat box, you can go ahead and type in there. But remember, just try to make it, at least during the time that I'm teaching a lesson, try to make sure that it's appropriate to what we're speaking about. If you have any questions, again, go ahead and do that, and then make sure to do your best. So a few tips. If you do have notebook, paper, please make sure to have that in front of you, and a pencil for notes, because again, you do have assignments that you need to complete. So it would be helpful for you to take some notes. If possible, find some quiet space. I know that it can be hard. As I've said before in my last classes, that I live in a small space, so it is sometimes very hard to find a place for it to be quiet. But if you can, just try, just so you guys can focus and concentrate. Make sure to ask any questions if you have questions, and then make sure to attend office hours if you have any questions that I couldn't answer during class time. Office hours are Wednesdays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. Okay, and I'll remind you about that again at the end of the class. All right, so I wanted to do a quick little stress check. So this is something that I'll try to do every single class. It might look a little bit different each class, but for now it's like this. So it's a stress check. So in the chat box, I want you to put either a 0 or any number between 0 and 10 about how you're feeling. So again, 0 is, are you in a good space? Maybe if you're in a good space and you can focus. A 5 would be something's bothering you, but you can still focus. And then a 10 is that you can't manage your emotions or behaviors right now, or you might be somewhere in between. So 0 is green, meaning you're good. 5 is in the middle. 10 is you just cannot manage your emotions right now. So in the chat box, if you know how to use that feature, go ahead and type in what number you feel you're at. Okay, so I see that. I see a few different numbers. So I see a 10 and I see a 2. So if you're at a 10 at the moment, always feel free to reach out to me. I know that these times can be a bit difficult, a bit stressful, or actually a lot difficult and very stressful. But you know, if there's any way we can help, please let me know. As far as the rest of you seem to be at a pretty good space, I'm also feeling at a 0 today. I feel like I'm in a good space. I can focus. And then as Ms. Ross said, we do miss you all. So it is very nice to see you guys all. And then, okay, so I see it too. All right, pretty good. All right, so today's objectives, the point of today, is that we will review the function notation to evaluate expressions. That's what we did on our last lesson. We'll review that, especially if you weren't here for that lesson. It'll be a quick review. So if you still don't understand it, please come to office hours and ask questions. And then we're gonna prepare to label triangles to prepare for trigonometric ratios. I know these all are really big math words, but don't worry, they're pretty easy concepts, especially for this group. So we'll just try to go through them. And then again, if you have any questions, let me know. All right, so today you did have a you did have a do now that was due. If you didn't get that done after class, go ahead and go and do that. But right now we're gonna review it. And then remember, you can take it, I think it gave me the option of letting you take it up to 20 times. So if you're not happy with your grade and you felt like you could have done better, or even after this, if you're like, okay, I took it, I didn't get a perfect score, I wanna get a perfect score, now I know how to do it, go back and get it done. Just know that sometimes the answers get mixed up. So if, let's say, the answer is the first one when we solve it, make sure to go back and check for that specific answer, or just actually give the problem a try instead of just trying to go and click on answers, okay? So let's look at this. Given k of 2, find k of x, which is equal to 2x minus 3. This is what we worked on the last session. So let's go ahead and review that. So if it's k of 2, remember that this is in place of x. So for k of x, we're going to put k, and now we chose it. The number we have to plug in is 2. Notice we're plugging it in for x. is equal to, everything else stays the same except our x. So 2. Instead of x, we're going to plug in this number that's in the parentheses. Minus 3. So notice the only difference is here is tell us what our x value is going to be. So here it's going to be 2. So that means that our x is going to be 2. Our x is going to be a 2. Now here we can't do anything with this information. K of 2, that stays the same. But we know what 2 times 2 is. And then we bring down the minus 3. So K of 2 is equal to 4 minus 3, which is 1. Notice it's a positive 1. So my answer would be 1. Perfect. Good. I saw a response in the chat box. Really good. All right. So we look at question number, oh, well, there you go. I messed up on that part. Oh no, there we go. So for selecting all the functions, so if you, I'm not sure if you guys remember from class before we started doing this online class, when we did it in person, we were talking about functions. And remember, functions is that example that I gave of the ATM machine. You put money in, you put, yeah, you can put money in and it goes into your card. But if you put your card into the ATM machine, what comes out? Money. So it's when you have one input, meaning you put one thing in, you get one output. One way, whenever you have a graph, to tell whether it's a function or not, is you do the vertical line test. That's a vertical line, up and down. If the line hits more than one point, it is not a function. So let me explain to you what that looks like. So on this graph, on this line, you guys see this? Well, it's not a line, but I'm going to make a vertical line. Notice it only hits it once. Now if I go here, it only hits it once. If I go here, it doesn't matter where I make my vertical line, it's only hitting it once. The blue shape is only hitting it once, meaning it is a function because it only hits it one time. Remember, one input, one output. Let's try with letter B. I make a line. Doesn't matter where I make it, it only hits it once. Doesn't matter where I make it. So that is a function. Now, so let's look at this circle. Again, if I do the same thing, notice that when I make these vertical lines, meaning these lines that go up and down, that circle hits this line here and here. It hits it here and here. And then again, this one hits it here and here. So notice all of these, when you make that red line, that vertical line, it only hits it once, but this one hits it twice. So it is not a function because it can only, the vertical line test is that it only hits it once. So it says select all the functions. So we know that A is a function and we know that B is a function. So that's how you do that do now for today. And that's it. Each do now will only be 2 questions. So it should be really quick. And they should be usually done before class. So that way when we review it, you're just reviewing it. So try to get your do nows done before the class. So if it's a do now for April 14th, then you should have it done before the April 14th class. If you don't, I know that things during this time are tough and confusing. If you don't get them done by then, that's, just get them done as soon as you can. Okay. And those are being graded. So let me go ahead and, all right. So today's lesson, labeling a right triangle. So this is more of a geometry lesson because even though you're in Algebra 2, we are in the geometry unit. So hopefully this is familiar from when you took geometry last year or whenever you might have taken it. If you haven't taken it yet, because I know sometimes we do have people who haven't taken geometry yet, this is an intro to geometry. Or not necessarily an intro, but it's a geometry unit. So we look at this right triangle. What is a right triangle? A triangle is, it has its 3 sides, but what makes it a right triangle is the fact that it has that angle. It has that right angle. Notice this right here. That means that it's a 90-degree angle. So if you look around your room or wherever you are, you can see corners. Those corners are all 90 degrees, okay? So in a right triangle, they have a 90-degree angle. Okay. Now this is a 90-degree angle. We know that because a triangle makes 180 degrees, these are each 45 degrees, but that's not the focus of the lesson right this second. It's more of labeling the triangle. So this is how we label it. We look at that right angle. Okay. What is across? And by across, I mean not touching it, like not this one, not this side, not that side. What is across from it? That is called a hypotenuse. I know I covered it a little bit, so let me go ahead and write it out here. Hypotenuse. Notice it's spelled like this, H-Y-P, but you might spell it, but you can spell it out fully. So we have our hypotenuse. Now next, whenever you're given a problem, when it comes to labeling right triangles for trigonometry, let me see if there we go. They will give you a focus angle. So they will give you one angle to focus on. Okay? When you're given that angle, you have to label your triangle either adjacent or opposite. So you take that focus angle and you look at what's completely across from it. So what's on the opposite side of it. And that will be your, opposite angle. Sorry, your opposite side. Now, whatever you didn't label, that will be your adjacent. Your adjacent side is usually that side that's touching that angle, but is not your hypotenuse. And we'll review that a little bit more. I'll have you guys practice that. That way we can focus. Now, if we focus on this angle, notice now the focus angle is a different angle. What is directly across, that becomes your opposite now. And what's on this side, so touching that angle and not directly across, so what's left, we have our adjacent side. So we're going to review SOHCAHTOA, so that's sine, cosine, tangent. And I'll go more into detail about this. This is more of a little overview, but remember our focus today is just labeling the triangle. So when do we do this? We do this when there's a right angle, and then when two sides are given, and then there's two sides and one angle. So maybe two things are given and one is missing. So again, our focus is to label the triangle. So first decide which side is the hypotenuse. So remember, in order to figure out the hypotenuse, we look at our right angle, what is directly across. That is our hypotenuse. That's the first step. Then it says, then check where the involved angle is to identify the opposite and adjacent sides in relation to that. So let's say our focus angle is this angle here. The first thing I like to do is find my opposite side. So what is all the way across? That is my opposite side. And usually the one you have left, that will be the one you have left is your adjacent angle. Now let's say that our focus angle, let me go ahead and, again, the hypotenuse stays the same no matter what, because it is going to be the side that's across from the right angle. So now this is your focus angle. Sorry, not that one. We were going to change. The point was to change. Give me 1 second. There we go. So now let's say this is your focus angle. What is all the way across? That's your new opposite side. And what's left is your adjacent. Notice the adjacent side is always touching that angle. Okay, so if we were to label this, and then I'll go ahead and give you guys some time to practice. So here, right away, I know that my focus angle is this green one right here. Notice that they focus on this angle, okay? But even before that, what is all the way across from my right angle? Remember, that is the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse. What is across the focus angle? That is my opposite. And last but not least, what's that side that's touching the focus angle? It's the adjacent side. So when it comes to labeling the triangle, this is where I want to give you guys some time to practice. So what I'm going to do is I'll go over number 1 with you. And then for numbers 2 and 3, I want you to use a chat feature to type in the response as we go along. Okay? So for question number 1, the hypotenuse is. So right away what I do is, remember, anytime we're looking for the hypotenuse, what is across the right angle? They don't give you any label, but we do know the name of that line and that, or of that side. That side is called RQ or QR. Either way works. Now, remember, I like to personally look for the opposite side first because to me, that's just what works easiest or what makes most sense to me. So I look at the focus angle, what is across, and it's this side. So that is side PR or RP. So I know that's my opposite, meaning this one is my, and I know that's my hypotenuse, so I know this is my adjacent side. Again, remember the adjacent side is touching the focus angle, right? So now based on that, the adjacent is PQ, remember PQ or QP, and the opposite is PR or RP. So now let's do number 2. Number 2, let's find the hypotenuse together. So hypotenuse, remember we look at the right angle and we look at what's directly across. Here they do give us a label. What's the label that they give us? And I'll give you guys all some time to answer in the chat box. Okay, so remember, you good. So that's the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. That is our hypotenuse. Notice that they do give us a label for that. So what they tell us that this right, I saw one more response, give me 1 second. So this is our right angle, right? Our right angle. And it asks what the hypotenuse is, that is directly across. So that would be 5.2 centimeters because this right here, like some of you said, that is our hypotenuse. So now the adjacent side, so remember either the adjacent or opposite. I personally like to do opposite first. So I look at what my focus angle is. My focus angle is this. What is opposite? It's this one. What do they label it as? They label it as 3.4 centimeters. And notice what's left. So if we know this is our opposite, what's left for adjacent? We have X. Now, if we look at this last problem, number 3, we have the hypotenuse. So again, what's the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is what side is across the right angle. That's the one that says 8 centimeters. And then again, I like to do opposite first. I'm going to look at my focus angle, which is this, and what's across. And that's going to be my opposite. This one, I forgot to label it. And then what do I have left? That's adjacent, so 6.6. So I know that this is going to be a little bit difficult to do because it is a lot of questions and it's hard for you guys to label. So what I'll do is next time maybe I'll add less problems and then that way you guys get a chance to annotate and I can show you how to do that with more time. For now, what we'll do is, these are a few good practice problems. If you do decide to practice, what I would do is, I post these videos up on Schoology, so you can always play the video again, pause it at this point, give yourself a chance to practice, and then check your answers. So that's one way to do it. I'm not sure why it does that. Really interesting. Them all. Okay, there we go. But notice the hypotenuse is always across the right. I'm going to highlight that. So the fact that across from it, notice they always label that one hypotenuse. Across from it, you find this and you go across. Doesn't matter where it is. Across. If you just go across like this, that is always your hypotenuse. Notice it's always labeled hypotenuse. Okay? Always. If it's across the right angle. Now, using a different color so you guys can see, let me go ahead and do that same thing for, I wonder if yellow will show up. Let's do blue. Now, the focus angle, this is a focus angle. Notice if you go across, it's going to be opposite. Where's my focus angle here? This is my focus angle. What's across? It's the opposite. What's across? That one's hard to see, but opposite. Again, across my focus angle. What's across? Focus angle across is opposite, and you just keep doing that to label your sides. And then what's left, left you have your adjacent. That one should be a little bit easier to find once you've labeled the other two. So I'll give you guys some time for questions at the end, or if you need me to explain something a little bit in more detail. So I'll unmute you in about a minute. I just want to review what are the next steps. So after class today, you're expected to do the do now. So that's if you haven't done it. Some of you I know already completed that, because usually, remember, do nows are done before class. The same way when you come into class in person, you guys come in, you do your do now, and then we do our lesson. It's the same type of thing. I want you to do the do now before the lesson. So when you come in, you already know, and we're just reviewing the do now. But if you didn't get a chance to do it yet, just go ahead and get it done afterwards. Again, that's something that you can retake. I think it gives me the option of letting you retake it up to 20 times. So if you're not happy with the score, you can keep trying to get it better, and I will give you the grade on the highest score you get. For the exit ticket, there is a exit ticket having to do with this same type of problem. So I'll go ahead, and that should be made available to you after class, because I do want you to either be in class or watch the video to understand the exit ticket. So it should be made available after class, and then before class on Thursday. Make sure to do that do now. Again, try to get it done. I know it's hard with everything going on. Sometimes it's hard to get our work done. Just do the best you can. And again, you can always retake things. If you have any questions, I'll give you guys a few minutes. I know you guys have to get going to your next class, but I am available Wednesdays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. The link is on Schoology for you to go to the Zoom for office hours if you have any questions to ask me that I didn't get to answer during class time.